Hey, if you look up Jim's Art Studio, they have this beautiful Ukrainian sunflower. It's absolutely worth checking out. All the profits are going to go to help Ukrainian charity, so please check it out. It'll be great. All the links will be below in the description and probably here in the picture. But yeah, go help them out. Ukrainians are going through hell right now.
This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by Jim's Art Studio. Jim's Art Studio is an online store that allows access to prints that you can use for most anything, obviously as just a picture, or as a wallpaper, or as a bookmark, or anything you can think of. You can find Jim's Art Studio at etsy.com/shop/Jim's Art Studio. This video is also brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, this is going to be a slightly different episode. There's not a whole lot of news I felt compelled to talk about other than to say how Ukraine seems to be doing quite well in the war, and hopefully that'll be over soon. Hopefully Russia will withdraw and we can just all put this behind us and Ukraine can start rebuilding. The other big thing that's happening is actually tonight is the night of the Oscars. And this used to be kind of a big event for me. I remember writing for the newspaper and writing articles about the Oscars and coming up with Oscar predictions and doing lots of research into these movies. In this Oscar season, movies were announced. I was kind of interested. I look up the nominees. I haven't seen much of them. And honestly, I still haven't seen much of them. There's movies I want to see. Probably the biggest one I want to see is Tick, Tick, Boom, Boom, the Andrew Garfield, Lin-Manuel Miranda movie. That looks good. But, yeah, the Oscar seasons just came and went, and I found myself not really caring. It's been a fairly corrupt system for a while. I mean, it's just big, famous people in Hollywood playing favorites, and I've known that for a while. Just recently, all that type of stuff just seems so plainly apparent, and my interest in it has been so minimal that I just don't care. It just feels weird. The Oscars are on right now. They're on mute in the TV in the other room. And I literally don't care. If they're still on when I finish recording this, I'm probably going to turn them off and play video games because I just do not care. So, with all that out of the way, we're going to dive right into the video. And this video is going to be on Dim Tool. If you're familiar with Dim Tool, I don't know if he still sells himself as a leftist. I know he used to sell himself as a leftist. I'm not sure if he still has that talking point. But essentially, he's a leftist or maybe just a centrist now that sells all the right-wing talking points. He is just awful. I can't stand him, and I've actually lost friends to him. The frustrating thing about Dim Tool is that lots of times when he starts out a video, he starts out kind of logical. There's a little bit of logic in what he's saying. He seems kind of reasonable, kind of like, oh, let's talk it out. And then by the end, he's completely off the rails. But he makes it seem like that's the logical path when it's not. He's just right-wing propagandist pretending he's not partisan, and I hate him. I've literally lost friends over him. And yeah, I can't stand him. And part of the reason we're going to be talking about Dim Tool today is because when I started doing these video reactions, the YouTube algorithm started feeding me interesting video suggestions. And probably because I record a video and I research Daily Wire movies, I now have a video suggestion. Dim Tool and his Dimcast. Daily Wire movies are popular even among leftists and huge cultural victory for conservatives. This is kind of shocking. I mean, even how many Daily Wire movies are there? Okay, let's look these up. Daily Wire movies. So, I mean, is this it? Run, Hide, Fight, Shut In, Trump at War, No Safe Spaces, Never Again Is Now. So are those all the Daily Wire movies? This says Shut In is his first movie. Okay, let's figure this out exactly. Daily Wire. Okay, so Daily Wire movies. So they've just started them. So Shut-In's the first one. So the other ones might just be Daily Wire adjacent. So Shut-In is technically the first Daily Wire movie. But Jim. Oh, here, we'll just go to the Daily Wire page and see what their movie selection is. Shut-In. And then Quirky Comedy Hyperions premieres is Thursday. Here's How to Watch. So Daily Wire. Okay, so Hyperions is gonna be their second one then. So Shut-In and Hyperions. Is that Carrie Eels? Comedy stars A-lister Carrie Eels. Is he in it for the paycheck, or is he actually, like, subscribing to the Daily Wire? Carrie Ewells. Yeah, that's right. He had a feud with Ted Cruz. So is he doing this for the money? What the heck? Okay. Maybe there's a trailer for this. What the fuck is this? Okay, Daily Wire has a fucking trailer for this shit. Yeah. If this thing suddenly becomes still images, no, I got copyrighted.
My name is Vista Mandelbaum. My brother and I have taken 4 hostages.
Everybody against the wall.
We've come for one thing. Our Titan badges.
Is this real?
Yes, ma'am, this is real. Can I sign this?
Wait, is this some sort of superhero thing? What is this?
Well, I want that too.
It's the police. They want to talk to whoever's in charge.
This lighting is weird because it's like colorful, but it's like kind of like drowned out with the lighting. I mean, this is like my lighting scheme, except I bet you this has a lot bigger budget than this show currently does.
This Titan badge can grant an individual superhuman power. Perhaps it's time for someone else to take on the responsibility.
Oh my god, is this like a Wes Anderson knockoff shit? What is this?
Meet Apollo.
I'd recommend next time using your power.
I mean, yeah, if you think so.
Calling all Hyperions.
On my way.
Jesus Christ, they're doing a superhero movie. I'm a little disturbed.
You're making such a mess in here.
We've got a Hyperion en route. Not a good time.
Oh my god, why is the lighting just drowning out so much? It's like this Wes Anderson style setup, but like shitty. Like very poorly done.
It looks stupid. Shots fired! God, run! Give me my gun!
Suit up for adventure.
Oh, those effects look bad.
You're going to destroy me.
Next question. How's the family?
The family is, gosh, what is it?
Marvelous.
Okay. Cool. Coming March 10th, 2022. So this just came out like a couple weeks ago. A twisted take on Disney combining live action animations. The Hyperions is an inventive, imaginative superhero film like no other. Famous, beloved, and endowed with unique superpowers by Professor Ruckus Mandelbaum's Titans badges. A young trio of superheroes were adorned and admired for their courageous, globe-hopping actions. But over the years, as egos bruised and resentments developed, the professor replaced the team with newer members. Years later, 2 of the original team crime fighters want their powers restored, and they'll stop at almost nothing to get them back. The Hyperions is a fantastically fun superhero action comedy throwback. Here's the deal with the Daily Wire. All their stuff is politically, like, infused to just, like, a ridiculous degree. And I'm not seeing this so much here, which makes me wonder, is this like a movie that like got left on the shelf and Daily Wire like bought the rights to? Oh my God. So this isn't a Daily Wire production. They just got the rights from Saban Films. This is a Saban Films thing. That's why Carrie Eels is involved. Okay, this is probably not even a political thing. This is probably just some random movie they got the rights to. Cool. Okay, so also apparently we have to go back to the Tim Pool thing. Daily Wire movies are popular even among leftists and huge cultural victory for conservatives. Now, before I watch that, I really want to see where he's getting his info from. So let's look up some Rotten Tomatoes on these. No, okay, some critic scores, 82% audience score, 3 critic scores, but here it's saying there's no critic scores. Okay. Some audience scores for a Daily Wire release doesn't mean anything because, honestly, it's Daily Wire. They have their built-in audience who'll just suck up anything they want. It's got released their YouTube channel, apparently, right? Well, they just have clips on... Oh, I bet you it's on the website. I probably can't even look up view numbers on it. We're going to find out here real fast. Okay, so you subscribe to the Daily Wire. What is a... God damn it. Gotta give me anti-trans shit. So you sign up for the Daily Wire, probably some sort of streaming service, and you can watch the Hyperions. Yeah, no wonder there's not a whole lot of reviews for it. Nobody's gonna do that. Shut in. Okay, let's look up this guy. Okay, so this is weird. So I pull up the Rotten Tomatoes for Shut In on my computer, and I'm not pulling it up. However, for some reason on my phone, I can pull it up just fine. It has a 63% on Tomato Meter and 96% audience score. Not the best picture. I apologize. For some reason, my computer is not pulling up this page. So 63% is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Okay, here's a fun fact. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 reviews total. So being slightly positive doesn't mean anything. One more negative review and it goes into the wrong range, or one more positive, it gets more solid. But yeah, here we go. So, or 5 positive reviews, 3 negative reviews. That's it. So what the fuck is Tim Pool talking about? How is this a huge cultural win? These movies are having like no impact on society whatsoever, and this is a cultural win? Okay, let's see what the fuck his angle is, because, sure, whatever.
So, you guys are making movies.
We are.
Daily Wire. You're making shows, too. How does it come to be that the Daily Wire, you guys are news aggregators and commentators for the most part, now you're in this cultural space? Yeah. How does that happen?
It was always part of the vision, right? The company was founded in L.A. Obviously, Ben's lived in L.A. every minute that he wasn't at Harvard. I spent 20 plus years in L.A. before moving the company to Nashville at the end.
So I don't know who this guy is off the top of my head. I believe this is the guy who currently has the Razor company. He's launching off Daily Wire. I really don't give a shit.
Of 2020, Andrew Klavan, screenwriter, novelist, was with the company from the very beginning. There's always been this really kind of Hollywood foundation to what we do, you know.
Well, Ben is a failed screenwriter, which I wouldn't normally attack him for, except he clearly, from the Batman review, does not understand story arcs. So I understand why he's a failed screenwriter looking at that.
I made a bunch of movies in a previous life that they all failed, but I made them. I'm proud of them. And so when Ben and I made the decision that we wanted to get into business together, one of the things that I told him, and it was an idea that another conservative commentator, Bill Whittle, helped me formulate, was that if we built a media company that was large enough, we would actually have a spotlight, and we could shine that spotlight on other kinds of projects that we might want to make. What happened, and so for me, that was always movies. Like I had a production company with some young actors when I was in my early and mid-20s. I had a production company later in life called Declaration Entertainment that was sort of just probably ahead of its time and underfunded to actually be what it maybe could have been, but was sort of intended to be.
I want to double check who's this guy actually, and I'm going to have to speed this up here. This is going way too slow. Okay, Jeremy Boring. I would probably go for stage name if I want to go into movies and my name was Jeremy Boring. But, hey, whatever. Jeremy Boring. He's only 2 years older than I am. Jesus, he looks he looks probably at least 10 years older than me. There's not much on him. He works with Ben Shapiro. Boring opened a line of subscription-based shaving razors called Jeremy's Razors, openly competing against former Daily Wire sponsor Harry's Razors. I don't care.
Be like a crowdfunding film company before there were crowdfunding companies. So that was always part of what I wanted, but I thought what we would do is we would build up a big enough audience that if I went and made something on the side, I could promote it. To me, that's how I saw it. But what happened in 2020, everybody went home because of COVID. Our office is on Ventura Boulevard in LA. It's the second time we've had to board up because Black Lives Matter is rallying on the street, and we're afraid they'll burn down our building. And I'm on the third floor of this office building with my business partner. It's completely empty because no one's been to work in weeks and weeks and weeks. And I said, Hollywood's over. Like, what can they make now? They've decided that the police are bad. Literally.
Oh, we're gonna make conservative movies.
40% of everything that Hollywood makes is about a cop. They can't do anything if this is the position they're going to take. And that's when we realized not only had we built that spotlight that Ben and I had always wanted to build, but we had built something else too. We had actually built the distribution mechanism because we had built this streaming video on demand platform for our podcasts, for the video versions of our podcasts. And it just occurred to us in that moment, the technology is agnostic as to what the content is. We've essentially built Netflix. We just haven't put movies on it yet. So if we bring in the one other thing you need for a successful entertainment company is just production. If we bring in production, we actually have marketing and distribution. Why don't we give that a try? And
then we can buy movies from Saban and put them on our platform. Okay.
Because I know there isn't a God, but if you ever think about how the world has so much purpose and how everything's so complex and beautiful.
Did one of Ben Shapiro's big collaborators just say, I know there isn't a God?
Because, I know there isn't a God, but if you ever think about how
if
you ever think about how the world has so much purpose
him, of course.
And how everything's so complex and beautiful, it's almost like a godlike being, probably from outer space, built it all. Not God, because that would be a silly thing.
That's insane, like totally crazy person.
But like just a godlike being, if you really think about it. That when the godlike being, sometimes there's this like fortuitousness or providence that happens in the world. And as we're having this thought, Dallasonier, who's been a guest on this show, called me and said, hey, I made this great movie called Run, Hide, Fight, and Hollywood won't buy it because I've basically been blacklisted. And we just saw that as an opportunity to test the theory. If we put a great production through our marketing and through our distribution mechanism, what will happen? It was...
Okay, Run, Hide, Fight. I saw that one listed. So that's another one Daily Wire apparently just bought. So let's look up Run, Hide, Fight. I think that's the one I looked up for the box office numbers on the last video. It was right there. 0 reviews? What is up with the computer version of the app? This is weird. The computer version of the app is not working right, but here we go. It's got a... Ooh, that's ugly. So it's got 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, 93% audience score. Daily Wire has a built-in audience. They all fly to this stuff. And no one else is going to care. So the audience score built of people who have probably even heard of it is going to be high naturally. So the audience score is worthless. That 40% is pretty bad, though. Let's see how many reviews we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20. Not a huge amount of top critic reviews. But 20, that will tell you for 40%, what does that tell you? 8 positive, 12 negative. Very exciting stuff. Run, hide, fight. What is that? Is that the school shooter thing? Run, Hide, Fight is a 2020 American action thriller film directed by Kyle Rankin. Thomas Jane. Hey, cool. It follows a high school besieged by a quartet of school shooters. So it was distributed by Daily Wire, just like the Hyperions. Daily Wire had nothing to do with actually producing it. They just distributed it. Okay, so just like looking at the synopsis, this is just cringe. This seems like turning a school shooting into an action movie, which, God, they probably turn it into some sort of God. I wonder if they try to turn it into a Die Hard thing. Jesus Christ. Oh, that sounds awful. It's
an unbelievable success for us. The movie paid for itself in something like 7 days,
Wow.
and we realized that we had an actual now opportunity, and I always think opportunities are always responsibilities. So now I say we have a responsibility to go chase this.
Let me tell you about impact. I would like for you, sir, to please read the headline on the screen.
I watched a Ben Shapiro movie by accident.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is some leftist who watched, I believe they watched Shut-In, and liked it so much they tweeted how much they liked it, saying if you're looking for something to watch, Shut-In is pretty fun, and Vincent Gallo gets his ass kicked if you're into that sort of thing. That's a tweet I wrote a couple weeks ago, late on Saturday night. It no longer exists. The reason it doesn't exist is because almost immediately after I posted it, I got a DM from a friend. You know that movie was produced by the ultra right-wing Daily Wire with only ultra right-wing producers, talent, and so forth for the market. What? No, delete, what? Yep. They're trying to make real movies now. Sneak that ish in under the cover of actual production values. For F's sake, this always happens to me. I will be watching an ultra-evangelical movie and not realize it's ultra-evangelical. I'll be listening to Christian radio and not realize it's a Christian radio. If Jesus is around, I need him to announce himself, or I'll just think he's from Brooklyn. The funny.
So the whole they didn't do Rotten Tomatoes. I'm doing tons of research into this, and this is one goddamn article by one person. This whole video is based around one article, right? Is he gonna have more? Because that's one fucking person.
Funny thing about this is that I hope it's satire, and it may be, but I'm assuming it's not. I don't know.
It's the greatest article. I mean, at the end, they say maybe if you keep doing this, maybe one day I'll watch one of your movies on purpose.
Well, but here's real quick. We did talk about this the other day, but I just want to point out, with you here, get your thoughts. This is someone who's saying they actually really enjoy evangelical movies or the Daily Wire's content, but
yeah, they are saying that. I can't stand that stuff. It's so goddamn preachy. It's obnoxious. Fuck that shit.
It says a lot that they're unwilling to watch things they enjoy because of cult-like behavior. And so the point I made before we got on the show is thinking about your commercial with Jeremy's Razors. It's
okay. Who did that article? Because this is really sounding like bullshit to me. Let's see. Oh, come on. Let's see that title. Give me a title. Come on. Scroll up. Okay. I watched a Ben Shapiro movie on accident. This seems... New Line would have got comment on what exactly happened with its shut-in option, but at some point reverted back to Sony having founded a new production company, Bonfire Legend, a phrase defined on the company's website as a notoriously famous person righteously scorching disingenuous morality. He took the film to the Daily Wire. Okay. Yeah, it's another one behind the paywall. I'm amazed there's 8 top critics who paid for the paywall to actually go watch it. But also those critics who can get past that paywall probably already like the Daily Wire. The fact that it only has a 63% among them tells you something. So did Daily Wire even produce Shut-In? Or did they just buy... Like, it just seems like they're finding movies and distributing it. That seems like all they're doing. Which is fine. It's a movie distribution thing, but they're not making movies. They're acting like they're making movies, and they're not. So Shut-In wasn't even made by the Daily Wire. They just bought the rights to it, just like everything else. They don't make movies. They're acting like they're making movies, and they're not. Okay, let's go back to...
Or the Daily Wire's content, but it says a lot that they're unwilling to watch things they enjoy because of cult-like behavior. And so the point I made before we got on the show is...
Yeah, this is very sussy. Because I'm not gonna lie, I hate this shit. Who is this person? Yeah, it seems weird. If they like this shit, that's weird. Thinking about
your commercial with Jeremy's Razors, it's an objectively funny commercial. Okay, obviously, humor is subjective to a lot of people, but it's very much in line with a lot of the, the real American heroes bits that were happening out through the 2000s, 2010s, real men of whatever and that stuff. And it's an over the top, it's silly, use a flamethrower to torch, and there's a lot of jokes. It's funny. The Native American Elizabeth Warren you have standing behind you, a lot of jokes in there. The people who claim it's not funny or they don't like it, they're only saying that because they're part of a cult they have to adhere to.
That's right.
Privately, they admit they like your movies.
Just to go on the record, the whole Native American thing for Elizabeth Warren is weird. She probably shouldn't tote that so much unless she's more Native American. Yeah.
But they must say they don't like it for the sake of their political tribe.
Well, also, when these people say something isn't funny, am I supposed to sit there and go, well, the things you think are hilarious tend to be really valuable and enjoyable to watch. So, of course, I trust your opinion on this. None of their comedy is good. But part of why I think this, and I could be wrong, part of why
Lots of comedies aren't good in general. Conservative comedies are fucking unwatchable. Oh my God. So I don't want to hear conservatives tell me about how liberal comedies suck. Yeah, liberal comedies suck too, but fuck. At least they have some gems. Leftists have some gems. Don't Look Up is great. Dr. Strangelove is great. Conservative comedies are unwatchable, though.
I think that this is probably satires because, unfortunately, most of the stuff that conservatives and evangelicals make tends not to be funny or entertaining, and they're saying that they keep seeing things made by evangelicals that they don't know are evangelical, which is kind of part of why I'm thinking it's satirical, but I could be wrong.
I'd like to quote Justin Roiland.
Yeah, he made this whole video based on this goddamn article by one person, which... How's one person writing an article a huge cultural victory for conservatives? How is that? Are you going to get to that, Dim?
His character, Rick Sanchez. Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
Yeah,
best
that's right.
quote.
So there you go. I mean, first of all, the funny thing is, they cheered for your guys' movie, and they're only booing it now when they realized who made it. I'm like, no, you can't take it back. You cheered for it. We know you like it.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an insecure.
One person. We're talking about one person.
Pure artist. Anytime anybody says they like anything that I did, I don't hear anything they say after that. Like it's all a buzz. Yeah.
So what's the plan? What's next? TV shows?
Yeah. TV shows, movies. We, as with the Razor Company, we just see a lot of opportunity in the destruction that the left is bringing to the culture right now. I mean, I think it's tragic. Listen, if I could snap my fingers and put the country back together and...
Listen, when there's a movie that the left can't put out there, we will buy it for dirt cheap and put it on the Daily Wire website and make our subscribers pay money to watch it. We are 100% willing to make that sacrifice. We will do it. Jesus.
Have everything be like it was back when I grew up. I'd probably do it if I could be dictator. That's what I'd just say, hey, it should be 1990s all over again. I kind of like the 90s.
The 90s were epic, dude.
Yeah, there was the racists all got along and everybody was doing pretty well.
Fast food
401k was going
that
up.
bad.
Oh yeah, the 90s were perfect. I hope they're being funny here.
Right. Transformers, Beast Wars, come on.
Dude, 97.
But you can't do that. And it would be disingenuous for us to say, in all of this destruction, there's not an opportunity for creativity.
No, absolutely.
There is, and we should take it.
I totally...
The creativity to buy the rights to movies and distribute them. So creative.
And this is part of why I got into the sphere. Firstly, I just always wanted to make entertaining content. I lean right. People on the show who watch me regularly know this. And what ended up happening is I just got to a place after I launched my channel and was doing these political cartoons for a little while where I just realized I didn't really need to try to put a message into anything. I just needed to make something that I thought was funny and my values would naturally come out in it. So often what happens when conservatives try to make content, or evangelicals, Christians, even Catholics try to make content, is they will really hit you over the head with what the central message is supposed to be instead of just making something that's enjoyable to watch. And it turns out really cheesy. Now what's ended up happening over the past couple of years is the left has adopted that strategy, and so much of what they produce is message first, substance later. And so you're absolutely correct that they're tearing their whole empire down.
I mean, message stuff has always been out there. I want to know what exactly he's talking about that's like message first specifically, because I keep on hearing him talk about woke shit. And obviously Megan Basham's talking about Eternals as if it's super woke, when the fact that the character is gay and a couple of races have been changed from characters that are just not fucking popular doesn't really mean anything to the story at all. The story is 100% separated from that. These are just facts about these characters. Yeah, it'd be easier if he gave me actual examples as to refute them or not. Because he could probably come up with some movies I agree with and some that I don't. Star Trek, if you look at Star Trek mainly episodes, there are some episodes that clearly have political message that work really well. And there are some episodes that have political message that just fucking flops hard. That even if I agree with the sentiment, it's like, oh God.
down, because I remember as a kid we used to watch films and television shows from the 1950s or 60s with our dad, and he would make comments about how they could never make that today. Now we're saying that about things that were made 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you guys get around that?
Example: what was made 10 years ago we can't make today? What the fuck are you talking about, man? 10 years ago, 2012, there was a movie made in 2012 we can't make today. What came out in 2012? All right, Dark Knight Rises, Amazing Spider-Man, Prometheus, Chronicle. Are these movies we can't make today? John Carter? Sinister? Sinister was good. That's probably the best one I've seen so far. Snow White and the Huntsman. Yeah, you can't make that today. Skyfall. You can't make Skyfall today. What is this?
The ESG stuff that's been coming. You're familiar with what is it?
Environmental, social
governance.
Yeah.
So real quick, for those that aren't familiar, this is basically social credit scores for businesses, and they expect you to be woke, to have these diversity statements. Otherwise, they could negatively impact your ability to get loans and things like that. So the Daily Wire is making all this content. You guys are going after culture, but isn't there?
If you're talking about content, yeah, they're making like YouTube videos and shit. They are not making movies. We've already established that.
Risk there if these other institutions come at you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of risk everywhere. One of the problems I think that conservatives face right now in the economy more broadly is there are so many potential vectors of attack. And you could put a lot of money into chasing any one of them, and then that could just not be where the attack comes. So you wasted all of your resources trying to plan for a disaster that never came, and now the disaster can come from a whole other angle. An example of this, conservatives want to build their own social media.
So his argument is that conservatives are always on the defensive? Is that his argument? You don't have anything to say, you're just on the defensive?
Platforms right now. You hear every time I talk to any sort of like conservative billionaire, the first thing they say is, when are we going to get a Facebook? And I say, Facebook is 20 years old, bud. You will probably get one 10 years from now. It's been half a biblical generation since it was created. So I think that you're getting close. Soon you will have one. But that's the whole problem with conservatism from an investment class point of view. Most high net worth conservatives made their money in energy, or they made their money in real estate. They made their money in agriculture, very conservative ways of making money. And the result of that is, if a kid with a backpack walks into their family office and says, hey, I designed an app that lets you rank how hot girls on campus are. I think if you gave me a little capital, I could turn it into the dominant communication platform ever conceived in all of human history. They would call security and throw that guy out. Yep. Now, 20 years later, they go, why don't we have a seat at that table? But if a kid with a backpack walked in now and pitched them blockchain or pitched them Meta, they would have the same reaction that they had 20 years. So it's like, I bet we have a conservative Facebook in 10 years, and I bet that we have a conservative metaverse in 45 years.
Facebook goes into bubbles easily, and there's lots of conservative Facebook bubbles. I don't see that happening. Facebook needs broken up or something.
Now, right? Like that's the problem. And so, but as with all problems, it creates certain opportunity. We found an early investor in our company who was able to get us off the ground. We took money from them that helped us for the first 14 months. In month 14, the Daily Wire was cash flow positive. We've paid for all of our growth since then out of cash flow. We did $120 million of revenue in the last 12 months. It's a. Sometimes I get angry when people are like, oh, billionaires pay for everything you do. No. Like many companies, we were privileged to get some startup capital, but we funded all of this out of our success.
Oh, you got startup capital, did you? You got startup capital from nowhere, right? It just kind of appeared. We got startup capital from nowhere. God, I could do some startup capital.
You're just saying Daily Wire pulls in $10 million a month?
Yeah, and wow. because of that, the ESG stuff right now doesn't apply to us, right? We don't, because we funded our own growth. It's sort of like your situation here. You've built something. Now, you didn't even have the amount of startup capital that we had, but you've built something that you own, and because you own it, you can't be canceled from it. You can't be thrown out of it. Now, our goal at the Daily Wire is to become an institution. Our goal at the Daily Wire is to challenge the left on an institutional level, because we think that's the only place that true victory can take place. Maybe at some point we'll have to go to the public markets. But what we won't do.
So the goal at the Daily Wire isn't to make good content or to talk. The goal at the Daily Wire is to challenge the left. They're a reactionary thing. They have nothing to say. They just react to the left.
We just get caught up in this ESG stuff. Like, it may come to, at a certain point, we have to decide, do we subject ourselves to forces that change what we are, or do we not grow? And
what the risk I see is,
yeah.
Well, I'll phrase it this way. When I watched that commercial you put out, when I saw the building you were in and the TV and the structure, I'm like, that reminds me of Vice. You know, when I worked there, when they were edgy, when they were offensive, when they were shocking, the way they designed their buildings, and I was like, man, is the Daily Wire like Vice now, like how they used to be? How did Vice go from being sex, drugs, and rock and roll into wokeness, outright, establishment? And there comes a time,
hundreds of millions in institutional capital.
Did they go public? But it's they want to. I think they're trying to go through a SPAC. They've wanted to for a while. My understanding is what I was told by former higher ups who were at the company is that they had been attacked so many times by they had harassment complaints, sexual harassment, that the press was bad, and they had paid people out, and there was a risk of certain stories going public. So they're
Okay, I don't understand why Dim Tool is so popular. He is dull as fuck. Jesus.
Investors said, just declare yourselves like a feminist company, like make feminist content, adopt this, and you'll shield yourself from these claims. And so the idea, this is what I was told, that, and this is someone who was like, I worked at Vice. They said, when the investors came in and said, be a feminist company and you will be safer from these attacks, they said, okay, because the executives didn't care. So my understanding is they were just like, hey, whatever gets people off our back, you guys, no problem. We just want to make cash and run a business.
None of these executives care. Disney doesn't care about the grooming law down in Florida, right? Of course they don't. What they care about is their 23-year-old woke employees, making it impossible for them to conduct their business. What they care about is the fact that the left is so skilled at weaponizing, and they want to avoid those attacks to their business. And so the thing about virtue is that it's actually a really
The left is so skilled at weaponizing. You just admit the Daily Wire's whole plan is simply to attack the left. That's all the Daily Wire wants to do. And yet the left is the one weaponizing. The left is the weapon. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. How do these people not self-reflect at all?
cheap currency. You just say something. Hollywood's always peddled in this, even in the glory days of the 90s, and we were all walking around sucking on a big gulp or whatever. Everybody in Hollywood wanted to save the freaking whales. Because of course they want to save the whales. Because when you're on like your third marriage and 4 out of your 5 kids are in rehab and
gotta save something, I guess.
Everyone needs to see themselves as good on some level. Right. And if you're good Christians do this too, by the way. An easy out is to find an abstract way to be good. It says in one of the epistles written by the Apostle John that it's easier to love your neighbor whom you know than to love God. And every time you talk to a Christian, they go, well, that's not really true. I mean, my neighbor's kind of a jerk. My brother's kind of a jerk. But of course I love God. And I said, well, you don't. I mean, God himself in the epistle says that you don't. You say that you do because you've abstracted a God that you...
So does this guy believe in God or not? Make up your mind, dude.
Love more than your brother whom you know. You've created a God to love who approves of you and who doesn't have anything that you disapprove of. Your neighbor, your brother who you know, has all kinds of crap that you don't approve of. And so you see, it's very easy to give money to African missionary work or African charities or to save the whales or to save the environment. These are ways of abstracting your way out of having to deal with the messy reality of the world. If you really care about people, you interact with those actual people and try to make improvements into their lives, right?
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. And I would go as far as to say when somebody says that they love God, but they hate the people around them, don't do anything to improve their circumstances, either materially or spiritually, that person really worships themselves because their vision of God is just, as you said, something abstract that caters to all of their particular desires. One thing that I think our society has really lost is people are not focused as much on what is near to them. They want to solve problems on the other side of the world. That's a huge part of progressive politics. In fact, you could argue it's the only part of progressive politics is to defer responsibility elsewhere. Historically, people understood you were supposed to love those closest to you, care.
A huge part of progressive politics is solving problems on the other side of the world. What about healthcare for all? Is that on the other side of the world? What about canceling college debts? Are those on the other side of the world? There are things we could do right here. We also, it's also good to focus on issues all around the world. But there are issues right here. These guys are just straw manning the left, and they talk about how the Daily Wire's only goal is to fight the left. Obviously, it's Dim Tool's whole channel's plans to fight the left, too.
For your family first and foremost, and then you started to worry about the people around you. Now it's the exact opposite. I can treat my family horribly, but as long as I am theoretically good to someone on the other side of the world, I'm a good person, even though my entire social life is a complete failure.
No, you're not. You are good to that one person, sure, but no, if you still have to be good in your own life. This is the thing. They're just strawmanning. They're inventing people and then talking about how they suck and saying that's the left. That's not a fucking argument.
The greatest psychologist of our time has a statement.
Jordan Peterson, you have to clean your room, man.
But that's exactly the meme. The meme is you can't change the world if you can't even get your own life in order.
Yeah.
But I want to point something else out too.
Okay. Well, number one, nobody has their life 100% in order. So if you put that limit on people, we aren't going to move anywhere as a society because nobody's 100% there. it's like the argument you have to be perfect to do something. You have to be perfect to critique something else. Yeah, that's unrealistic. It'd be nice. Hey, it'd be nice if we get there, but we'll never get there. It's a stupid argument.
Well, also
when I'm looking at this article from Defector, and they're holding up a sign saying "F you, Ben Ish."
Oh my God! One article. A huge cultural victory for conservatives, and it's one fucking article.
Hero, like just cussing at him. I think to myself, I don't recall seeing conservatives holding up signs saying "F you, Cenk Uygur." Or to be fair, obviously sometimes they do, but it's kind of a common occurrence.
Yeah, of course they do.
It's among the left to.
Well, isn't Ben Shapiro bigger on the right than Cenk is on the left? I always imagined he was. Let's look this up. So, Young Turks, 5 million subscribers. That's pretty good. Yeah, okay, they got more subscribers than Ben Shapiro. What about the Daily Wire? They do have more subscribers, but you hear about Ben Shapiro way more than Cenk Uygur. Way more. He definitely advertises more. He's definitely more out there than Cenk Uygur. That's interesting. Cenk is definitely more popular than Ben Shapiro, yet Ben Shapiro is the one that's out there, almost like they're getting a lot of money.
Hate, and to hate without trying to understand. Yep. So I'm thinking about Daryl Davis. He's been working with Bill Ottman over at Minds. They want to de-radicalize extremists, not deplatform them. It's one of the things they're working on. And Daryl Davis, he's the guy who went to Klan meetings, a black man, and just talked to these people trying to understand them, ends up de-radicalizing them. It's fascinating because when I see how
I mean, if he actually did that, good for him. Very good for him. I would not recommend you do that. De-radicalizing somebody is hard. People get set in their ways, and especially at a Klan meeting, those people are crazy. So good if he's done that. Who was it? Daryl Davis? All right. His efforts to fight racism, in which, as an African American, he is engaged with members of the Ku Klux Klan, have convinced a number of Klansmen to leave and denounce the KKK. Good for him. Excellent. Less KKK in the world, the better. All right. Davis has worked to improve race relations by seeking out engaging in dialogue with and befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1983, he was playing country western music in a white bar in Franklin, Maryland, when a patron came up to him and said it was the first time he heard a black man play as well as Jerry Lee Lewis. Davis explained to the man that Jerry Lee learned to play from black blues and boogie-woogie piano players. He's a friend of mine. The white patron was skeptical, and over a drink he admitted he was a member of KKK. The two became friends, and eventually the man gave Davis contact information on KKK leaders. A few years later, Davis decided he wanted to interview Klan members and write a book on the subject. To answer a question in my head from the age of 10, why do you hate me when you know nothing about me? The question has never been answered from my youth. In the meeting, the Imperial Wizard of the KKK in Maryland, Roger Kelly, Davis concealed his race before the interview. My secretary called him. I told him, do not tell Roger Kelly I'm black. Just tell him I'm writing a book on the Klan. I wanted her to call because she's white. I knew enough about the mentality of the Klan they'd never think a white woman would work for a black man. She called him and didn't ask what color I was, so we arranged to meet at a motel. So he didn't go to a KKK meeting. The meeting was tense. Kelly arrived at the motel with a bodyguard armed with a gun. Davis eventually became friends with Kelly and was later invited to be Kelly's daughter's godfather. When Kelly left the Klan, he gave his robe to Davis. I mean, this seems like a pretty awesome guy. Jesus Christ, that takes balls. It's not something I'd recommend. Lots of people are not gonna be in a position. You have to be really convincing to convince somebody to step away from the Klan. You also have to, if you get them surrounded by their friends, it's gonna be tough. One-on-one, you might have a shot, especially if they're not going in with their defenses up. You might be able to talk to them. You can't confront them with it. But yeah, dude, sounds
modern
awesome.
Left, the activist left, not like regular run-of-the-mill, Democrat voters. They're, mostly just regular people aren't paying attention, maybe. Yep. But these activists they hate. They hate so much. It's the weirdest thing that Glenn Beck can tell Dave Rubin, I disagree with you and I think what you're doing is wrong, but I love you. Yep. And what do they say? They say, F you, Ben Shapiro. I'm like, man, Glenn Beck tells the people he disagrees with that he loves them.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro's an idiot. Yeah, I don't want to be a jerk, but he is, and he is just pushing negative values as much as possible and trying to sell it as the smart thing, when in reality he's just talking fast. He's just awful.
They tell you they hate you. I don't understand why anybody would want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Okay, people say they hate the left all the time. People tell me they hate me all the fucking time. This is not something unique to left or the right. People just say that shit. And you can cherry pick all the examples you want. You're cherry picking examples of how people are hating on Ben Shapiro. But yes, I guarantee you there's plenty of examples of people hating on Cenk Uygur. There's plenty of examples of people hating on me. It's all over the place. It's not like the right is like some fucking perfect place.
Well, this is the problem with dogma and ideology and politics, is that
the right is the place that's all about dogma and ideology. That's the problem. The left is about moving forward, about figuring out how the left is about figuring out how to handle the future, how to improve our culture. The right is about rigid dogma, about sticking our heels in with traditionalism. I don't want to hear about the left has dogma from the fucking right.
They allow you not to have to actually engage with the world as it is. You're only required to engage with the world sort of as you perceive it, juxtaposed against a code of essentially of your own making. And people can say, well, no, my dogma is 2,000 years old, or my dogma is, comes straight from Athens, or whatever it is. But the truth is, if you're a person who can't engage in reality, then your dogma is an abstract. Your dogma is just a reflection of things.
And again, these are like straw men. They're not actually talking to anybody. It's just, what the fuck are you even talking? If there's a leftist there to even talk to them, but they're not. They're just making up leftists to attack.
That you want, and it's a way of, to your point, mitigating responsibility for the actual people around you. I've thought a little bit about our. I actually was about to say something that I had committed not to say on the air, so I'm not going to say it.
Nice work.
Thank you. It's rare that I make a good decision, but I just made a good decision.
I hear you.
But it's so important. God, if you're going to believe in God or the godlike alien who actually made the heavens and the earth, there's.
Is this guy a Scientologist? He keeps on talking about God as an alien. Is this guy fucking Scientologist?
The whole conversation there.
Yeah. You actually have to believe, like, God has to be the God of reality. I took a friend 10 years ago. I'm married to a woman I never talk, and I won't say her name or talk about her too much, but I will tell you this funny story that I took a friend's future in-laws out to a movie 10 years ago. And the first thing that his future mother-in-law said to me after the movie was, I said, "Oh, did you enjoy the movie?" And she goes, "Well, I don't really like movies." I said, "Oh, great." And she said, you and your wife are married?" I said, "Yeah, we've been married a short amount of time." She said, "Well, in God's eyes, she's still married to her first husband." And I said, "Oh, well, God must be an idiot."
Wrong.
Because that's not true. Like, that is not reality. God has to be the God of reality, not the God of an abstract fantasy.
But I think, I would argue as a Christian that it's an abstract fantasy that you can divorce and remarry if it was a legitimate marriage in the first place, because one of the definitions of marriage is that it's a lifelong commitment until death do you part.
Oh, this guy, he's not Christian enough for them. He's about ready to get kicked out by the right.
But what would you argue as a Seamus?
As a Seamus? I mean, that's my belief.
Do you actually believe it, or do you just believe that the Christians believe it?
No, I believe it. I mean, I think most Christians don't believe it, unfortunately. I think a lot of Christians have abandoned that. It's not a popular teaching anymore.
I suppose you could define the word marriage meaning to mix. So if you're going to mix your soul with something, if there is a God, if there's an energy field.
There's no unmixing that soul.
That's a good point. Well, there's no unsaluting.
Yeah, I don't think Dim Pool is trying to play like he's the leftist, he's the logical leftist with right propaganda. He's just all on the right anymore. This is just pure right propaganda.
A solution, but I think you can reverse a mixture.
If you mix red and blue paint together, you ain't getting them back out. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's
I don't know, it's a meaningless analogy.
It's almost like people aren't fucking paint colors.
And so I understand.
Onto it, though. Yeah.
Well, let's.
I'll push back on that just a little bit.
Sure.
God's the God of reality. Divorce
Absolutely.
exists in the Bible. That's not a recommendation of divorce, which is a horrible, terrible thing. But the idea that God lives in a sort of abstract where things are as they should be, how far back do you take that? Essentially, if that's the case.
Jeremy Boring here is probably starting to sound a bit like leftist. Well, what's up with that?
And God still lives in Eden before the fall happened. God still lives in a place where people haven't been living in sin, where people haven't been making mistakes, where none of the sort of none of the eventualities that came from that causality of sin have ever occurred. And God is abstracted out of being the God of actual people in an actual place in an actual time. The God of the Bible, in my estimation, is a God who actually took on sin and took on the consequences of sin on himself in Christ. As a result of that, he becomes God of a reality that's he becomes God of the people who have existed in reality, not just the people who could have existed in the abstract. So I just think that any time that we used, this is a great example. That's a place where we use sort of a dogma or an ideology to deny a reality that's right in front of us. I think you see it a lot with what's happening in Ukraine right now, by the way, where regardless of your opinion about NATO expansion, regardless of your opinion about the merits of Zelensky, regardless of your opinion about a lot of things, like Vladimir Putin actually did invade Ukraine, and Ukraine did not want to be invaded. And you see a lot of people, left and right, but particularly on the right, who are almost in denial about that situation because it doesn't line up with their political point of view. They have a political point of view that Ukraine shouldn't have done certain things, or that Putin was more friendly to the West than he actually turned out to be, or that Putin was a better representative. You even hear people on the right now saying that Putin was a better representative of Christianity because he built a cathedral, at one point in time or something. And then actual reality takes place in front of them. They have a very hard time pivoting to accept it because it's out of line with their expectations based on how they thought the world.
How is Jeremy Boring, the guy who did the Daily Wire's Razor Company and is a co-founder of he's co-founder of the Daily Wire, isn't he? Let's look him up. Co-CEO of the Daily Wire. The guy who's the co-CEO of the Daily Wire is the leftist on Tim Pool, on Dim Pool. Dim Pool is so right-wing that people that Ben Shapiro works with are more left-leaning than he. Jesus Christ, Dim. What happened? You fucking tool?
Yeah, Hitler was Time Man of the Year.
Hitler was Time Man of the Year.
And they did appease him for a long time.
So I hear some of what you're saying, and I agree with some of what you're saying, but I would say where we definitely disagree.
Okay, Time Man of the Year doesn't necessarily mean a good person. It just means somebody who had a lot of influence over that year. Fun fact, Hitler was Man of the Decade or something, wasn't he? Or he might have been Man of the Century. Not because he was a good guy.
Agree is that I would argue that God having moral prescriptions for us that we ourselves do not live up to does not mean that he's over abstracted or doesn't govern our reality, because it's actually Christ in Scripture who says what God has brought together, let no man put asunder in any.
Oh my God, Dim Tool is just pure fucking Christian gobbledygook on his podcast now. Jesus Christ. Might as well just be hosted by Pat Robertson at this point.
When he leaves their husband, commits adultery, etc.
The challenge.
He also says if you have lust in your heart, you are an adulterer.
Yeah,
you're not on
the
path to adultery. You're not kind of like an adulterer if you really think about it. You are one.
I wonder if you're in a marriage and you're thinking about having sex with another woman, does that make you cheating on your wife?
Yes, that's adultery of the heart.
That's crazy. How do you control your thought? Like, you got to learn to control your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Custody of the thought.
Jesus Christ, these guys. Oh my God, this is obnoxious.
I mean, nothing happens in the world that didn't first happen in the human heart.
Well, I would actually disagree. I think the entire purpose of the Sermon on the Mount is to get us out of these abstractions. It's to bring the full weight of condemnation. It's so that no one can.
Oh my God, Dim Tool is so goddamn right-leaning that the guy from the Daily Wire is the fucking leftist. Oh my God, he's as far left as you can get on this podcast. This is obnoxious. Holy shit.
Claim not to be an adulterer, not so that we can also try to figure out how to not commit adultery in our heads.
So I would absolutely agree that people should not be sitting here, and it is certainly not my claim to say that I am not a sinner or that I have not committed adultery of the heart, etc. It's simply to say that I don't believe recognizing that negates the moral precepts that Christ put forth.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in.
Oh, yeah. No, we are not checking out the whole show. Wow. I'm not gonna lie. That was kind of dull, but I just watched the whole thing because I just felt like I was watching a car wreck. That was just insane. They feel so victimized by the left. They invent these characters from the left and then tear them down. The entire fucking video, the title of that goddamn video, Daily Wire movies are popular even among leftists and huge cultural victory for conservatives. It's based around one fucking person. One goddamn person. And they're making the video title. Oh my God. Holy shit. Wow. Wow, that was a fucking train wreck. Holy shit. Oh. Oh God. Oh yeah. Wow. Wow. Oh my God. The Daily Wire guy was the voice of reason? Your podcast is so insane, you have to get the co-CEO of the Daily Wire to get some semblance of fucking reason on your podcast? What the fuck? Whoa. Dim Tool. Damn, dude. Damn.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
I used to fuck guys like you in prison.